All right, let's go on and do a video today, and let's talk about my first, my evaluation of my first year doing voiceover. My first year doing voiceover. My first year really pushing hard and really, excuse me, and really hard pressed pursuing voiceover and really actively pursuing the voiceover business. I made myself a list of some questions here uh, to to kind of ask myself to kind of go through and run through a few things here. I'll try to make this video very short because I actually do want to hear what some other voiceover artists' feedback is and what their other thoughts are and how their first year experience was. Now, from to put full context around everything and around where I started and how, and to give people kind of a gauge of my of what I knew before coming in and before doing this and before really diving in, um, to get to this point that I am right now. Now, I initially discovered. Well, I've always had this voice, and I've had this voice since after puberty. After puberty kicked in, my voice ventured to be what it is right now. And in the midst of the change, it was a trip. But besides all of that, I've had this voice for a while, and I've always been told, "Oh, you should do this and you should do that." I'm sure that many of you that are in this industry have heard that before. And for years and years and years, I just kind of negated, oh, okay, yeah, that's what everybody says, because I got used to hearing it for so long. But um, and about, I'd say this video is being recorded in 2019. So I'd say in the realm of 2015, 2016. The area of 2015, 2016 was when I was gifted actually. I was gifted the Gravy for the Brain, their introduction to voiceover course. Okay. That was in, like I said, 2015. Went through that, and mind you, as someone looking at this video might know, that gives you a very broad overview, of the market, a very broad view of voiceover, a very broad introduction of the industry, a very broad introduction of script interpretation, of the different genres and areas within the voiceover industry, and basics of vocal health, and once again the high level stuff, right? So I go through and I read the high level stuff, and I have this voice, and you don't know what you don't know, right? So I had a false sense of security, a false sense of not security. I had a false sense of overconfidence that was quickly shattered and utterly destroyed and shut completely down when I discovered and went over to Edge Studios website, and they have a forum where you can submit your work to get feedback, submit your reads to get feedback. And I hadn't had any coaching at all from nobody, no coaching at all from anybody. Um, I had only read about script interpretation and how you should do this, and about inflection, and and these different things, and I just kind of, I knew what I didn't know what I didn't know. So I took what I read. I thought I had an interpreter. I thought I knew how to interpret a script. I thought I knew what it meant to dissect the script and to make the words jump off the page. I thought. Emphasis on thought. I thought I knew, and I quickly learned that I didn't have any clue at all. And granted, a year later, I have a slight clue. But I had no clue at all at that particular time. And once again, I went over there to Edge. to try to. I went over to Ed Studios website. I had a USB mic. Yep. Yeah. All wrong right back then. Right. Had a USB mic that had. I'm a USB mic. I had no type of vocal treatment, no type of isolation booth at all. I wasn't in the closet. I had computer fan going in the background. It was a mess. And let me tell you, they raked me over the coals and quickly let me know, uh, that what I was doing wasn't even nowhere near of nothing, of nothing, of nothing, of nothing. So after being quickly and utterly destroyed in my first go round of just simply trying to, just get some feedback on how to even get anything started, I was quickly shot down. I was quickly shot down in the forum, and but I wasn't given any type of direction as far as get get some good quality coaching. You're brand new. You're obviously brand new, and you obviously don't know what you're really doing. But that's fine. You have some raw talent. You have a decent voice. Get with a decent coach, and go from there. But nah, they kind of raked me over the coals and then kind of left it at that. Um, and I and Yeah, so that was kind of that. That's kind of how that went. And so from that particular standpoint, from there until that was kind of like, to me at the time, I was kind of like, well, hey, it is what it is. No big deal. Nothing ventured, nothing gained at that particular time, right? So I'm like, okay, no big deal. Let it go by the wayside. So from 2015, kind of going all the way through, I would go through and check a free webinar from time to time and read up on some things here and there and look up some things on, and I was still kind of curious after that point. So I look up some things on acting and a few, and I started to, learn a few things here and there, pick up some things along the way. But I didn't really go hard until last year about this time, because it's October 29th, the day of the recording of this video. So when we go from, so it was about beginning mid to November of 2018, when I really just decided to say, you know what, I really need to go on and see what this is about. I feel I want to know for sure whether I do or don't have a place in this voiceover market. I just want to see once and for all. Let me actually give it a real solid, full blown dig in, and let's see what we can do with this thing, and let's learn one way or the other, right? So, since I had so much, since I was just brutally and mutilated on in the Ed Studios forum, I went to Ed Studios website and I said, well, you know what? Let me sign up for their stuff, without taking the time to really dig in to find a suitable, reputable voiceover coach that I could have worked directly with. I took the time and I went and invested in their program. They have this little ABC program where it runs you essentially through a whole bunch of webinars. And at the end of all of these webinars, then they say that you are ready for coaching. And then you can, go over into the coaching part of it, where you would schedule time to go back and forth with coaches. And they would kind of advise you when you are demo ready, quote unquote. And they would always say demo ready, demo ready. Make sure they'll get you to the point that you're demo ready and ready to actually do this. Okay, well, at that particular time, I heard all of that, and I really didn't necessarily totally get a full grasp of what they were saying at that particular time. So what they And also footnote, this is also about this is about, I don't know what it is now, but at the time total was about $2,500, give or take. That's, just to make it a round number, it was about $2,500 all in, for that. Yeah. That you pay, you know, put it on a credit card or whatever, right? Okay, so 2,500 gone, right? And you go through a series of webinars. A series of webinars that do get, now don't get me wrong, if you don't know nothing of nothing of nothing of nothing of nothing, then these webinars do provide you with information that you don't know, and it's good information because you just don't know. And you don't know the basics. So the information is going to be informative from the standpoint of giving you the basics. And, kind of, it's feeding you something. Okay. So if you don't know anything at all, oh yeah, 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 it'll feed you something. However, going back to think about it now, that money would have been much better spent with a reputable coach that can work directly with me and assess my specific skill set that I have, the specific skills that I need to work on, and then help to kind of build a path. And on the granted, it's still not, it's still going to have a cost associated with it, and that's fine. However, the return on investment will be a lot better for an individual. Well, in my case, it would have been a lot better for me and a much better investment if I would have taken the time to say, okay, well, I'm not going to deal with just going to a bunch of doggone webinars, which, as I dug in and found out later on, most of the stuff that I can find, most of the overview basic free stuff that most of the basic overview information that they were giving me that I was paying for was information that I actually could have taken the time to find out on my own for free, and then took the money that I was spending with them on webinars and coaching, uh, that, that could have been, that was months and months and months and months and months down the line, depending on how soon or how fast you were able to run through and take these webinars that weren't necessarily always offered, at times. It's not like they were just always available. You had to schedule, you had to get in when they were scheduled. And if the event was full, then you had to wait for whenever they post them again. And then you had to go through all of the ones in A before you got to the ones in B. And you had to go through B before you got it. So, and please excuse the rumbling that you hear in the background. This is recording at a time when people start to move around. And I haven't yet. Another thing, while we are talking about background noise and all this type of stuff, one thing that I am going to invest in, that I was questioning whether or not to invest in, that I think would have been a very good piece of equipment for me to invest in up front, is the DBX 286S, that goes through and can help to eliminate some of this little background rumbling that you suddenly heard come up just now. And it's kind of starting to fade away, and you might not be able to hear it too much with my voice, and I'll try to cut some of it. I'll try to cut some of it out in post, when I in my DAW, when I go through and do my editing. But I said all of that to say, in the midst of not knowing what you don't know, you kind of just, and in the midst of this being kind of the wild west of voiceover. I mean, there's no particular set way. There's no way. There's no voiceover college. I mean, you can't go to community college or any college and just learn about the right way to become a voice actor and how to really properly get in this industry. And the industry is constantly changing with the advent of how the world is right now, which is a whole, which has this good, which is a good thing, and which is a total good thing. There's, being able to communicate and do things around the world is a wonderful thing, you know. So, But kind of getting back to what was being said, I figured um, I would have, hindsight being 2020, I would have went back and just did and invested that money that I spent with Edge and a coach that could have really helped me to hone the skills that I'm learning now that I really need, that I really, 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 really need. Because when you're coming in and you're going through these little webinars, and as I was going through those webinars, I started to, because I have this go-getter type of I have this go-getter type mentality, and if it comes to information, I'm going to find it. As said, I'm able to find out stuff, and so that's one of my talents. So I'm starting to go out here and dig up this information and really start to dig in, um, and I'm finding information before I go to the webinar. So when I started going, it got to the point where I'm going to the webinars and they're telling me stuff that I done already found out, with the exception of a few things here and there. But once again, this is already kind of paid for. But it got to the point where I didn't see the value in it. You know, so I tried this. So at the end of the day, I didn't finish up with Edge. I ended up getting away from Edge, and um, well, didn't get away from the money. But I ended up getting away from Edge, and from Edge, I went through, found a coach. Um, I found a coach for a demo, paid the coach for the coaching and the demo. Got all of that done, and after that was done, I got, let's see, I got a couple other coaching sessions. Um, Other than that as well. So in the midst of it all, I've in the midst of that particular point, I had went through, invested in equipment. I had invested in equipment from the standpoint of, I invested in the sound isolation booth that I'm in right now. And once again, you don't know what you don't know. So everybody's situation is different, everybody's space is different, everybody's place is different, and you have to have everything set up to the point to where you can actually come back and produce a high quality sound. And if you can't produce high quality sound and your audio is bad, that you know that's going to kill you right off the top. And then there's just the logistics of being able to get everything done. So in the midst of setting up the business and all of this type of stuff, and so I'm learning what I don't know as I'm going through, and I don't know. But in the midst of all of this, time is still going by, and life is still going on. So, but in the midst of it all, as I'm starting out, I'm trying to dig in and going to get this money, because I'm, once again, even after I went through, done some coaching, learned some things, got the demo, I was going through, I had discovered Fiverr a long time ago for something else when I was doing a lot of graphic design. Um, and then I rediscovered Fiverr, from a voiceover perspective. And I know the industry people and will be like, oh my God, you went to Fiverr. And I get that part, because there are a lot of cheap there are a lot of people. There are a lot of people out there that are looking for some cheap deals, and looking for cheap voiceover work, and it's prevalent. And especially from my personal experience with the international community. My personal experience with the international community has been, they pretty much want they want $1 million job for $1. Now once again, this is just my experience. I'm not saying this is about all international clients, but the international clients that I have run into through Fiverr and Upwork have been looking for the $1 million experience for $1. And just my experience. And when you're just starting out, you're happy to get you're happy to get somebody who wants to pay you for for using your voice. I mean, it's, when you first get that, it's kind of like, oh man, they want to pay me for doing this. Okay, this is cool. This is going to work. And then when you realize they're only trying to pay you $5 to do to do doggone 100 words or 200 words, and then you realize because you may not be as experienced with your DAW and as knowledgeable of your DAW as you should be, it might take you an hour to get everything completely right, even though it might take you 10 minutes to actually record it. If your space isn't set up right and you have to do a lot of stuff in post, if you don't know about proper mic technique and you got a lot of plosives and pops, and if you don't know about how to really get rid of mouth noise, and you got a lot of clicks and cracks and gang 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 gangs, all this type of crazy stuff going on, you know what I'm saying? I mean, all of that stuff takes time. And then on the flip side of it, the same person that's only paying you $5 for these 100 words, when you record it, go through all the process, get everything cleaned up, get everything right, then shoot it over to them for to get approval. If from a Fiverr standpoint, if we're talking about, if they go through, usually they don't approve the work the first time because they explained, they told you what they wanted, but they don't really know how to explain what they want. So when you deliver what you thought they said, because that's what they said, so you gave them what they said, what actually happens, they go through and hear it, and they're thinking in their mind, no, that's not what I want. I want it this way. And then they'll send it back and tell you to do it again. Now, there's nothing wrong with making sure you provide the client with the proper, exact read and the proper feeling of what they want and what they desire, right? That's cool. We want to do that, right? It's providing good service, definitely. However, on Fiverr charges you 20%. So a $5 job is only going to yield you $3.50. So for $3.50, it may have taken for $3.50 if you're coming in brand new and you're not very experienced with your DAW, if you don't have your recording space set up properly, if you don't have, if it even just comes down to the point of you don't have your script interpretation is off. Maybe you just didn't nail it the way they wanted it to be nailed. It could be one of those factors as well. And then your skill set and your acting and all of this other stuff comes into play. So at the end of the day, if it takes you, let's say it takes you an hour to do a $5 job, or 30 minutes to do a $5 job because of all of these other factors that I kind of previously mentioned that you may not be very proficient in just yet, that's $3.50 for 30 minutes, or $3.50 for an hour. Okay, now you might be saying, well, Richard, okay, well, when you're first starting out, you got to learn all of this stuff and it's on the job training, right? Okay, I can understand that point of view, and I was thinking that initially myself when I was first, when I first getting started and first starting to get, in the first couple jobs. But then I quickly started to realize and started to think, which was one of my next things that may have kind of hindered me a little bit, was I quickly realized that I'm sitting there doing all this work for what ends up to being $3.50. Let me figure out how to make sure I can do this right and build my skill set up, so that I can make sure that I can actually be able to make, be able to command and make more money, and actually be able to get something that's close to being worth my time. Otherwise, it's kind of like, okay, well, if this is just something that, it depends on what your motivation is. My motivation for getting into and doing voiceover is to be able to build a business of doing something that I actually enjoy doing and actually love, versus doing something just for the sake of making money. There's a lot of, there are tons of things, tons of legal things that I can do and do for the sake of making money, just for the sake of making money. But it comes a time when you want to actually be able to say, well, hey, I just enjoy doing this because I enjoy doing it, and I just so happen to make money off it. So, um, so it depends on what your motivation is. So my motivation is to try to take it, is to take it to a level to where I'm doing what I enjoy, and getting paid for it. And you know, I have found that there is a place for my voice in the market now. But if this is something that you're just doing for the sake of for a hobby, or and that's cool, then your motivation and what you put into it may be different. But in the midst of it all, I found myself getting caught up into looking at it, from just straight business standpoint, and point, hey, number one, revenue, revenue, low expenses, revenue, revenue. Did I mention revenue? And but the thing that I also have to go back and keep in mind is one thing that I learned a long time ago that I had to be reminded of when I heard another person quote or tip that they were offering new voiceovers. And it's simply, here's my thought, here's what I learned way back. Making money is, in business anyway, making money is usually the result of providing a good service that the market values, right? So you provide a service that adds value to the market, and the market being the market of the market of customers. So whoever your customers are, when you provide a valuable service to them, a high quality valuable service, then as a result of you providing that high quality service, you get paid, and there's money that's generated because you do it at a high level, and you perform efficiently in doing what you do. So from a voiceover standpoint, that's when we're talking about delivering the script and essentially delivering that emotion behind the script. Developing that emotional connection to the customer that the client wants to establish, through what they're doing, and through their script and while all that is happening. So, in the midst of it all, um, I found myself getting to the point where I was looking at this like, okay, where I was looking at this in my standpoint from the wrong perspective, where I was starting to look at this, okay, well, it's a money grab. And not from a bad standpoint, but just from the standpoint of, hey, this, life is moving on, and we all we all have the things that we need to take care of. Things being household, whatever entails in that, children, whatever entails in that, if that's the case, wife, if that entails in that, or if you're single and your own lifestyle, or whatever entails in that. So I was looking at it from the standpoint of, okay, well, I need to, if I've invested X amount, which I'll leave X amount out there, I've invested X amount. Mm, um, yeah, and X amount is gone out, and now I want to see a return on what's been put out there, which we definitely want to see a return on our investments of what we do. But on the same token, we want to make sure that we are as proficient in our craft as possible, right? We want to make sure that we're actually able to really do this the way we need to be able to do this. And we're able to actually provide the service in a professional manner, and not only in a professional manner, to be able to provide, uh, uh, not only provide the service in a professional manner, but be able to do it quick. Because the quicker and the faster you can do it, the quicker you can do it, then the more efficient that you're able to do it, then, you that increases your bottom line, because you're able to get the jobs in and out, and high quality jobs in and out. You get paid, clients are happy, you're happy, et cetera, et cetera. So So in the midst of all of that, it I had to take the time to kind of kind of backtrack a little bit and then say, okay, here's where we are. This is what you're trying to remind myself of what I'm doing this for. And in the midst of reminding myself of what I'm doing this for, uh, I have to go back and make sure that I'm investing in myself and investing in this business to make it do what I want it to do and what I need it to do for me. So, having said that, one of the things that I'm learning right up that I've learned in the midst of this year, which is actually getting into one of my questions. I'm 30 minutes in, and I'm just getting down to kind of covering what the couple of the things I wanted to cover. So I've learned about the industry thus far that it's huge. I found that I do have a place in the market. I found that people are willing to pay me for my voice and my voiceover services, which is great. Now, but what I've also found is that there is still a ton of things to learn, and this is a global market. And even in the midst of the global market, you have to make sure, well, for me anyway, that my skill set is up enough that I can deal with the high level, that I can deal with the clients that are both satisfactory for me and as satisfactory for them. Because let's be honest, most voiceover artists, unless they've been doing this for a very long time, most of the voiceover artists that I've conversed with and spoken with are not full time right away. And the ones that are full time, they do voiceover and other segments of things that are around voiceover that make up their business. Okay. So have it in the midst of of saying all of that, I'm learning that there's a lot of people that are out here that are new, and there's a lot of people that's out here that are old that have been doing it. Um, that they know what they're doing and they're off on another category and they have their clients. You got the new people that's kind of coming in trying to figure it out. The new people, those of us, we kind of get sucked into not knowing what we don't know, and we end up going to what we think is where the business is and what we should be doing. Emphasis on what we think we should be doing, because we don't know what we don't know. So when we start to talk about what we think we should be doing, we start to look at videos, we get advice from the wrong places, and all of this type of stuff, and then we end up falling into one of these many traps of either a voiceover coach who's not really a voiceover coach, somebody offering information that's old, FYI, side note, whenever you're looking at videos or you're checking videos about tips on voiceover and voiceover advice and all this other type of stuff that you may go through and look for, check the dates of the videos. If a video is giving you tips and the video was dated 8-9 years ago, you might want to look for a video that's a little bit more up to date that will provide you better advice. Because as I found out the hard way, I looked at a video that offered some outdated advice that almost got me kicked off a platform when I went through and implemented because they had changed their terms of service, and I was trying to implement a strategy that had been essentially that was frowned upon and was not proper to be done. But then when I went back and looked at the video was dated the video was like 5-6 years old at the time. So a lot happens in that particular time frame. So the market is big. There is a place, but you have to be able to properly market yourself effectively and efficiently, and you have to know where to market yourself. You have to be able to, as I heard one particular person describe and talk about, you have to know where to get the clients from that fit you and that you fit them. Because there's something that you do that we all do naturally well with our voice or with anything else that we have, and then there are clients out there that need specifically what you have to offer, and it fits within their scheme and their products and their services, whatever that may be. Whether it be e-learning, whether it be radio imaging, whether it be just straight up general commercials. You know what I mean? Whether it be an different commercial set, whether it be uh, uh, car commercials, or whether it be you know cancer commercials, or whatever it may be. We all have to kind of market ourselves broadly starting out, and then kind of narrow down to see where the market kind of fits and where it pays us. So that's what I've some of the things that I've kind of learned about the market, and a little bit of information to kind of about my experience and where I'm at thus far in this first year. Um, want to go over one or two of these real quick before I kind of cut this video off, and then kind of get some feedback on some other artists out there and what has been your experience first year coming in as well. So another thing, what have I found to be true, and what is the biggest piece of bad advice that I've received? Well, I kind of mentioned what I found to be true about the industry in what I just mentioned. Now, the biggest piece of bad advice that I would say that I heard was in regards to investing in your business. I heard someone say, if you don't have the money to invest in yourself and your voiceover business, get a credit card. Get a credit card, is what they said. Get a credit card, and this was in a video. Get a credit card and charge the training on your credit card to invest in your business. I do not recommend doing that. Do not do that. Because, see, when certain people do such things as that bad advice, when you inevitably start to learn about the skills that you don't have, that you need to develop, that will bring you more business, or as you will learn, the things that you need to learn to bring you more higher quality, better paying business, then there are some times when the jobs that's come in are going to be that big and are not going to be able to cover interest rates that are this big. So, I'm just, I've just heard, something I've heard, a friend that I know uh, had an experience as such, but yeah, worst piece of advice. Um, Best piece of advice I would definitely say is that two things. Don't focus on money when you're first starting out. And that's a piece of advice that I heard, wasn't given to me, and I really just kind of was like, oh man, this cat is out of his mind. In one voice, he's saying invest in coaching, and then in the next voice, he's saying don't worry about making money, but we're spending money out. But I'm spending money out, and I'm not supposed to worry about getting that money back. But that's not actually what he really meant. He didn't worry about not worry. He didn't mean don't worry about not bringing money back in. What he was really mentioning through this comment was focus first on making sure that your craft is at its highest level as far as what you can do in this industry. Because as I found very early, number one, there's a ton of competition for the type of revenue that the average person would need to get to be able to actually make some type of living if you're trying to really do this for real. If you're doing this as a hobby, then the counter call sites, then counter call castings, and pay to plays and the these free freelance sites and all of the other stuff that just everybody else is doing will work out just fine, because it might not be as serious for you as, if that's not your goal, and that's cool. And however you want to do it is how you want to do it, which is the wonderful thing about being a freelancer. Your freelance business is however you choose to run it. But for those of us that are trying to actually do something and really trying to pull some revenue out of here, um, the best piece of advice is when you're first starting out to not focus on the revenue, but focus on making sure that you're adequately trained and you can really do this for real at the highest possible level. Because just starting out, you might not have the best quality mic, you might not have the best quality preamp, you might not be using the highest quality software, you might be using the free stuff, like Audacity or something like that. But at the end of the day, you still the thing that will stand out, your audio quality and your acting and performance of the script. If you got the audio quality thing down, the only other thing that's going to make you stand out is your interpretation and your performance of the script. And kind of like something I mentioned earlier, most clients, they know what they want to hear, but they usually don't know how to adequately describe it. So when they describe it, you have to be able to look at this script, interpret the script, perform the script. Pretty much you have to be able to hear what they're not saying and hear what they are saying and perform that back to them better than the other 100 people, than the other 50 people or 30 people, or or however many people they've listened to. If you're doing one of these counter call castings on a pay to play, or or any of these other sites that you might be doing, as far as that's concerned. So, best thing I've learned thus far: get coaching. Don't focus on the money up front, because the competition is so stiff that if all other things created equal, if this other person is been doing this for 10 years, they have been training, and they're a trained actor, or they have been trained in using their voice, and they know the proper inflections, the ups and downs, how to end down. And if they're asking a question, then how to end up. You know what I'm saying? Or or how to have proper mic technique. If they already know all of these subtle nuances on what to do with their voice to make their performance pop more than yours, then it's gonna take you're going to be sitting there sending out all these auditions, and you're not going to be getting no work, and be like, well, I'm not getting no work. And then if you don't have a coach who's been in the industry long enough then to now, and is still active in the industry, to be able to actually say, okay, here's where the noise is, here's what's real, here's what's not, this is what you actually need to do to be able to help you make this thing work for you. Here is where you are, here's where you're trying to be, this is how we can get there. And offering you some, and really giving you some solid stuff. So so that's kind of yeah, so that's kind of where we are at this particular point. We're about 44 minutes into this video. So I'm going to go on and end this one right here, and I'm going to leave it with a question. How was your first year in voiceover? And what things did you learn? What things did you not learn? After your first year, are you still going? So let me know. Let me know down in the comments, and I'm gonna share this video around in one or two of the different, in one of the groups that I can share it in, because there's another particular group that doesn't like me to share my YouTube videos in their group. So I'll share this to the other group or two that I can share it in, just to get your feedback. I'd like to know where, has it been so far in your first year? Or how was your first year if you've already, if you're way down the line in the year 5, 10, or something like that. What was your first year like? What was your experiences like? What did you learn? Um, what did you then learn? So that's what that is. I'll catch you guys on the next one. This is Richard Hawks, voiceover artist, out here doing the doggone thing. We'll catch you on the next one. Stay blessed. Peace.